Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Welcome, Bruce.
Hey, David, how you doing tonight?
I'm pretty happy, Bruce, as you might imagine. After having lobbied for seems like years, but for months at least, to see Dominic Cahoon get a try with Connor McDavid and the Dynamite Line reunited. Two things happened tonight, and they both kind of worked out in a 6-1 Edmonton Oilers victory over the Winnipeg Jets. So yeah, I'm exceedingly happy about that game because I really do believe, Bruce, that they haven't had great chemistry in the top lines, and they got it tonight. So, and I already covered one of my good things, but I'll dig into it a little deeper. So this is our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers. And because it's a Oilers win, we'll go with two good things each. Why don't you fire it up, Bruce? Fire it up.
Convincing Oilers win.
6-1.
That, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna mix up my good things just because of the way they made their impression on the game. So my first good thing is going to be the big netminder Mike Smith, who rebounded from a loss like he's done over and over this game. On the occasions that he has lost, he's almost always bounced back with a very strong game the very next game, and he did so tonight. And he stopped 36 of 37 shots in what was a 6-1 Edmonton Oilers victory over the Winnipeg Jets. But this game was nowhere near as one-sided as that score indicated on flow of play. Winnipeg did have times of pressure and times of bottling Edmonton up in Oilers territory, and they did generate a lot of shots, including I think it was 7-2 before even the first TV timeout, and that was where Smith held the fort early, and he made a couple of real big stops in the early going, and a few more solid saves, and he was just seemed to be dialed in right from there, and for the duration, really. He was just, I thought, rock solid in his positioning. Not much in the way of bad rebounds, and he made a few really stellar shots or stops. And as the game went in, he just settled, and he badly outplayed the Vezina Trophy winner in this game.
We haven't had goaltending like this, Bruce, over an extended period of time since Dwayne Rollison in 2006, spring of 2006. Mike Smith has been that good. He's just been game after game, and he has the odd bad game, but he's just consistently really good to the point where we'll be almost as surprised to see him play badly consistently as he had that horrible spell last year. His save percentage, hope that's not your number, is .923, which is the seventh best save percentage for a starting goalie in the NHL. The top goal in the NHL is at .930, and so he's at .923. I mean, when was the last time the Oilers had a goalie who's played considerable minutes with a .923 save percentage? Javi Bulin had a nice little run there when he came, but that was over about 15, 16, 17 games. Smith is now up to 26 games with a .923 save percentage, so impressive. Bruce, my first good thing is Dominic Cahoon. So he has been kind of I would say he's had a few good games with on the Dreissitel Yamamoto line. I don't really know why that line didn't work that well, Bruce. I know that it worked well in terms of goals for and goals against. I think they have a pretty decent goals for, goals against at 5-on-5. But it just didn't. That line never seemed to have chemistry. And I heard one suggestion was that essentially it was because it was just too small. You had these two small wingers, and Dreissitel had to be the physical force. I think that line lacks speed, lacks that kind of breakaway speed, and to open things up on the ice. And Dreissitel ends up slowing down when he has the puck. And neither of those guys, when they get it, are particularly quick with it. Yamamoto he's above average quickness at least, but Cahoon's not a very fast player. And anyway, it never really worked for me. I was hoping to see Cahoon with McDavid because I think the kind of players who succeed with McDavid are smart players who don't need the puck. And I think that kind of is Dominic Cahoon. He is smart defensively, generally speaking. He's very smart with the puck and knows how to make a good pass. And but he doesn't need the puck. He's not not even as much as RNH needs the puck to succeed. Cahoon doesn't really need it. He just really gets it and passes it off, and could work well, I think, with a player as fast and dynamic as McDavid, who really doesn't need to play with a player who is skilled with the puck as RNH. Anyway, Cahoon made a number of very nice passes tonight to McDavid, hitting him in stride, including one sequence where McDavid scored on a breakaway play. Well, not really a breakaway, kind of a semi-breakaway where he comes down the wing and has a clear shot on net, and he makes this incredible shot on net, which you're going to get into, so I won't get into. But Cahoon's pass on that one was very strong, heads-up pass on McDavid's third goal of the game. Yeah, third goal of the game. He kind of helped with, he arguably won a little battle at the blue line where the Jets player at least didn't see through him and passed it over, and McDavid picked off the pass. So a number of strong, smart plays by Cahoon, and who knows if this line has much of a future with Puljujarvi. I just thought Puljujarvi had one of his best games of the year as well.
He was really good.
Again, we don't know if this is going to last or it's going to work. What I always wanted to see is give it a try, see if it does work. So before the deadline, especially, I'd wanted to see it, because if you're going to force a trade, maybe they never had that in mind. But they've turned to it now. It worked one game. I don't see why it can't continue to work. You have the big, forceful player in Puljujarvi. You have McDavid, who's also a big and forceful, extremely fast player, and Cahoon, who distributes the puck very well and fills in on defense. I like it, and I think it's got a chance.
Cahoon, yeah, I liked his defensive game a lot tonight. Very good with the defensive sticks, cutting out passes and hustling back to get into the lanes, and get a stick in the lane to to disrupt passes. I think it was he. It's buried in my notes that I'll go through as I'm doing the player grades, but I think it was he that came hard back to get a. No, wait, that was Yamamoto. I'm thinking of came really hard back to break up a 3-on-2 with a hustling hard back check. But Cahoon did that sort of thing on 2 or 3 occasions, and he contributed to 2 McDavid goals by plays that he made around the Edmonton blue line, as you've already pointed out. So he seemed to complement him pretty well, and he was you could see he was kind of ramped up himself with the opportunity, and he came out skating and bringing his best game, I thought. I mean, he played it for most of the game.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it works, Bruce. What's your second good thing?
Yeah, well, this order, but this is really my first good thing. Most bestest good thing
Ever.
Another absolutely dominant performance by the great Connor McDavid, who played a season low 16 minutes and 3 seconds tonight. So he didn't really see the ice all that much. All he did was in those 16 minutes score a phenomenal hat trick. Add a helper, 4 points plus 4, another game-winning goal. I think that's his 11th of the season now, for what that's worth. In a game like this, the winner is kind of incidental, but he's earned a lot of his winners by breaking ties late in the third period. So we'll give him the odd bonus one like this, and just all over the ice. He led the Oilers with 7 shots on net. No other forward had more than 3. And he was just buzzing. I mean, most of those shots were, it's either breakaways, semi-breakaways. He was just all around the puck, all around the net. And the 3 goals he scored, I mean, it was like that stick of his was a wand in this game. I mean, I don't know how he got the first one. Like he had to reach in and chip it from a bad angle in the backhand and get it up and over and into the net from a bad angle. It just kind of looked like a sort of a wild whack at the puck from the side. And the next thing you know, it's in the net. And you look at the replay and he did exactly what he was trying to do. Just, get it up off the ice and on the target and bingo. So that was his first goal, which was in fact the game winner. The second one that I really liked was that one where he took that long pass from Cahoon, and he came in this was like seconds after he'd been robbed on a breakaway, and had been set up by both his line mates, Cahoon and Puljujärvi, and I think one of the defensemen as well. And then 30 seconds later, Cahoon feeds McDavid, and he comes in on the left side, and he wound up as if he was going to take a slap shot, and then he didn't shoot it, and he held the puck for like an extra quarter or eighth of a second, changing the shooting angle, and then he kind of disguised, I think, also the shooting angle, and he fooled Hellebuyck entirely. Hellebuyck thought he was going for one of the corners, and McDavid instead bounced it off his pad and through the 5-hole. And he fooled him with the delay. I think the speed of the shot. It was just one of those ones. Tonight he was like one of those baseball pitchers that's got, 6 different deliveries and he's got 4 different pitches that he can each throw at multiple different speeds, and the batters are always off balance. Well, he had Hellebuyck totally off balance, and this goal was an exceptional example of that. This was a goal that he specifically reminded me of Wayne Gretzky. And I don't see that very often, but Wayne used to do that to goalies, drive him nuts with his release point, and he'd hold the puck while he was moving and changing the shooting angle, and then they wouldn't really tell when it was coming off his stick, and it would go right along the ice like this one did and beat them. And that's what McDavid did on this one. And then, of course, the third one was the play where Winnipeg gifted him the puck with a little help from Cahoon, who kind of pressured the defenseman. But Winnipeg's defense had a bit of a tough night. And it was off to the races for McDavid. And he looked over his shoulder long enough to see that he had plenty of time. And then he made just a ridiculous series of stick handles and dangles and dekes. And eventually he shot. And Hellebuyck kind of stayed with him and he even got a piece of the shot, but he was unable to hang and keep it from dribbling over the goal line to complete the hat trick. And just a marvelous array of goals, 3 very different goals in terms of how McDavid managed to get the darn puck into the net.
Yeah. On that last one, he was twitching so much on that last one, Bruce. He was like Mark the Bird Fidrich. Yeah, I don't remember his goal scoring rate in other seasons. I don't know if this is higher, but he does seem to be varying his shots a lot more this year. There's a cleverness in terms of tricking the goalie that he's engaging in, that he's taken to a different level in terms of his game. So he's obviously been thinking a lot about how to beat those goalies, and he is giving them nightmares. He now has 81 points in 46 games, so he's 19 points away from 100. He's got 10 games for 19 points. He only has to get 1.9 points now, Bruce, per game. And
seems possible, doesn't it?
It suddenly seems very possible. And he doesn't have that Gretzky-esque absolute mania for scoring, because we don't see him. In many games, McDavid this year has had 4 or 5 points in the first couple periods, and then he's shut it down, like tonight. Gretzky would always have two or three more in the third period on those games. But that's not McDavid's MO, so that he doesn't do that. Nonetheless, he has got a real shot at this point. It's going to be a great thing to follow in this last part of the season.
Yeah, well, he's had in the last 4 games 2, 3, 3, and 4 points. So 12 points in his last 4 games. So he's not exactly slowing down. And against the Jets now on the season, he scored in the individual games 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and now 4. Like he's had at least 2 points in 8 games out of 8 against Winnipeg. And Winnipeg, this just in, they're a pretty good team. They got the Vezina Trophy winning goalie on their team. And McDavid has just rung them up game after game.
If he can get one night where he gets like a 5 point night in the next little while, that's gonna. All right. Anyway, let's. Bruce,
Yeah.
my other good thing is is the line combinations, and I thought the Ryan McLeod Archibald Shoreline looked okay. I liked Haas, Neal, and Chason just fine. Um, like Speedy Haas in between those two guys. I like the McDavid line. Just so crucial to find the right line mates to play with Connor McDavid. Again, it's been a very difficult thing for this team to do. Maybe they're onto something here. And of course, I love seeing the Dynamite Line together. And this was the first game where they kind of looked like the Dynamite
They
Line.
look good.
They looked good. And Ryan Nugent Hopkins in one game back with the Dynamite Line. I think this is probably their third game together this year. He's now in one game he doubled his number of primary assists, and this time it didn't go off his skate, as you mentioned it before we got on the air. You reminded me his first primary assist this year at even strength came off his skate, went to Josh Archibald. Did you say against Ottawa?
Tyler Ennis.
Tyler Ennis for a goal against Ottawa. This
Well,
was
McDavid wasn't even on the ice. All the time he spent with McDavid. Never once did he pass it to McDavid or anyone else on the line
and no
for a
one
shot that went in the net.
Yeah, and no one expected that, and I didn't
No
expect that. I
kidding.
thought they would have some success together. RNH. I just thought that the Oilers would be a better team with the Dynamite Line on one, out there part of the time, and then McDavid on the other part. Then you have two things that are driving the opposition crazy.
Yep.
This is what the Oilers need, Bruce. If they're going to win in the playoffs, they need two lines that are going to drive the opposition crazy. They just can't have one. So the Dynamite Line, this was their first good game together. Nugent Hopkins looked more like himself tonight, making plays. He hit the post a couple times, especially on a 2-on-1, and his feed to Dreissitel was magic. I just love that play, and I hope to see it in the next 10 games as the regular season closes out again and again and again. This line, as I've said before, it takes each of these players who have a tremendous amount of skill, but the combination, it's more than the sum of its parts. Together, they create magic out there, and we saw that tonight on that goal at least. And they got a little zone time now and then. That's what they really specialize in that give and go zone time. And going forward, I hope to see a lot more of it.
Yeah, that play by the Nuge, it was about 3 good plays rolled into one. First of all, he was in good defensive position, and when I think it was Derek Forbort of the Jets kind of lost the handle of the puck inside Edmonton's zone, Nuge just pounced and he chipped it by him, and he was gone past him on the 2-on-1. And he played it just right, like he held it just the right amount of time and fed the perfect pass over to Leon, who absolutely rifled one of his patented one-timers home. I mean, maybe that's what Nuge was missing was the Leon one-timer that even the great McDavid doesn't have a release quite as all-powerful as that Dreissitel one-timer. Man, did he rocket that one into the net from range. Like, he wasn't like 10 feet out. He was probably top of the circle or not much closer than that when he let that one fly, and Hellebuyck had no chance. It was by him. It was perfectly teed up by Nugent Hopkins, and there's no reason, you're right, that he shouldn't be able to make plays like that once in a while. And he's got a long record as a good passer, and what's happened to his passing game this year is a bit of a mystery, to be frank. And maybe it's just a matter of good passes that leading to shots that just haven't gone in for whatever reason, and that's bound to correct itself. Regress to the meat, as they say in the orlogosphere. And he certainly found the meat of Leon's big paddle for for that rocket. So that was fun to see. I yelled when that one went in. That was good.
It is astonishing to think of how little success he had with McDavid this year. And we've talked about it in the past. I just do write it off. I just think it's very difficult to play with Connor McDavid. He's such a unique player and essentially a soloist. I mean, he does pass. He's not a selfish player,
Oh,
but he just does so much alone with the puck. That's his game. That's what, and he will dish it off in the end. So you really have to be either the guy who gets him the puck early on and then just kind of fills the lane, or you have to be the guy at the end who can drill in the shot right at the end, like Dreissitel can, right? And maybe Puljujärvi's going to get there. But other than those two kinds of players, you know, all your other offensive skills in some ways are a little bit wasted when you're out there with him, because he doesn't really need you to do those things. He's going to do them. So I'm just going to suggest that it wasn't the perfect fit for a player like Nugent Hopkins, who had a lot more to give and wasn't able to give it, and didn't have the one thing that McDavid really needed, which is a shooter, and still needs a shooter. Maybe it'll be Puljujärvi. We'll see. Your bad thing, Bruce.
yeah, I'm starting with for a bad thing from an Oilers perspective. So I'm going to kind of bail on that and just label this a real bad night for the Winnipeg Jets, who are in a real bad streak right now. They're a good hockey team, and they showed good things at moments, but boy, are things going awry for them. And they've now lost 4 straight games at home, 2 each against the 2 top teams in the North Division, which Oilers passed the Jets with tonight's win and moved into second place with the game in hand. So this was a standings changing game, and the Jets. I thought their back end looked poor, and that's been identified as being a weakness. And they had some couple of pretty massive blunders. I mentioned the one by Forbort, and this guy Tucker Pullman, who's also playing, basically top 4 minutes. He played 19 minutes tonight, and he was way out of position on at least one goal, like, just nowhere to be found in the coverage. And between those things and the other bad news that the Jets got with the absence of Adam Lowry, and now today the news that Nikolai Ehlers, a fantastic player, is out for at least the rest of the regular season. It just all around was a bad day for the Winnipeg Jets, so I'm going to bestow on them, without prejudice, they're my bad thing from this game. Sorry, Jets fans.
Ehlers is their 46 points in 47 games for Nikolai Ehlers. He has the most point per game. He is such a fantastic, lightning quick attacker. He, more than any other Jets player, he scares me when he has the puck, just because of that blistering speed.
Murat Atesh, who covers the Jets for The Athletic,
Yeah.
he got his start in the Orlogosphere when he ran under the name of Showerhead. And now he's a very respected hockey writer and commentator for The Athletic. Murat referred to Ehlers as being a zone entry machine. And as he said it, I was sort of, yep, I just game. You see that guy, he's got the puck on the stick, he's in the zone, and he's creating from within the zone. And they're so going to miss that, and they certainly missed it tonight.
My bad thing is just a small thing, but I've seen this small thing a few too many times. Is it written into Tyson Barrie's contract that he has to have one bad pinch per game leading to a 2-on-1 against? And it's kind of, I feel kind of, it's kind of picayune in a way to pick on him for the play, but it was just it was in the third period, the game's over, and how many times have we seen this same replay where he tries to make some kind of pinch or force the play in the neutral zone? It's usually in the neutral zone, and he just gets caught out on a 2-on-1, and it happened again. So he has been rough defensively. He's a very good offensive puck mover. He really can pass that puck, and I think teams need that kind of player. Obviously, the Oilers have been desperate for that kind of player. But it's Bruce, these errors are unforced errors. He doesn't have to do these things.
Right.
And yet he does them again and again and again. Why? I don't know why.
Well, especially with the big lead, you'd expect error on the side of caution, right? And don't give him any freebies kind of thing. And that was a freebie of a 2-on-1 because he got kind of lost in space there in the neutral zone. And it does happen. He did a lot more right than he did wrong
He
tonight. I'm
did.
not going to be giving him a bad grade because of that one play, but
No.
it was it was symptomatic of things that we've seen before, and I expect we will see again.
Yes, in the playoffs on a big goal. Maybe it's just because he's a smaller guy and he just his reach isn't big enough to win battles. Like, a lot of pucks go through him into the slot, into the Oilers in defensive slot in front of Mike Smith or Koskinen. And sometimes I just think it's because he has less reach, he's just not as good. But on the other hand, Chris Russell is the same size and he makes about half the number of major defensive mistakes as Tyson Barrie. So it's more than just size. Bruce, your number.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a couple of milestones tonight. This was a milestone kind of game. And I mean, so obviously one of those numbers is one, and that's for young Ryan McLeod making his NHL debut, and a successful one it was for the youngster who I thought acquitted himself very well indeed. And he was, I thought he played a good 200-foot game, and I mean, what more can you want? He was good in the D zone. He was in good position. He cleared the puck out of trouble a few times. He skated out of trouble a few times. And he just seemed to fit in pretty seamlessly on the line with two sort of mid-career solid veterans, but hardly superstars in Devon Shore and Josh Archibald. And I thought they were a pretty effective line. He had 60% on the face-off dot. He had a shot on net. He had a hit, and just I thought overall good game for him. Second one, Alex Chason scored his 100th career goal, which is not a huge number for a goal scorer, but just in. Alex Chason's not really a goal scorer. He is a grinder, and he has been a grinder for a number of years. He works his ass off for his 10 or 12 goals that he gets every year, and he's done it enough years now that he's made it all the way up to 100. And I tell you what, 100 goals in the NHL, that is a career. And that is a real nice that's a real nice milestone to reach. So congratulations to you, Alex Chason. And then finally, way higher up the food chain, the great Leon Dreissitel, who tonight cemented his place in German hockey lore yet further by becoming the highest scoring German national in the history of the NHL with his wicked one-timer. That was his second point of the night. His first was a great steal and backhand feed that was by magic out of the corner on the first goal. And then that one-timer was his second point of the game, and it was the 488th point of his NHL career, putting him one past Marco Sturm, who was a very fine player for a very long time. Marco Sturm played 938 games in the NHL, so nearly 1,000-game career, and he nearly got to 500 points. And that was a good sort of two-way player for a long time. Well, Leon, he played his 468th game tonight. So literally half, actually half minus one, the number of games Marco Sturm took to score that number of points. Leon got there in half the time. And so a real nice milestone of that type of, he's now the highest scoring German in NHL history. So hats off to you, Leon Draisaitl. And so some nice milestones at a number of levels, son. And I guess even a small milestone to Dmitry Kulikov for his first game as an Edmonton Oiler, and he acquitted himself well. So I'm going to be talking about milestone night in my headline of the player grades tonight.
It's interesting. The Germans, they have come on. When you mentioned German hockey lore, I was thinking, well, there's not a lot of history there. But Bruce, that hockey playing nation is moving up the ranks and could start to move into the top rank, start to edge past the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Switzerland, start to challenge the big countries, Sweden, Finland, Canada, Russia, USA. I mean, we've seen the USA rise up, right, in the last 30 years. Germany seems to be on the same trajectory with ever more players taken in the first round, ever
Yeah.
more players who are making a mark in pro hockey. So Leon Dreissitel is at the vanguard of that. I also thought Ryan McLeod had a very strong game. What I really liked, we've seen him in Bakersfield and in the Swiss League carry the puck with confidence. We saw that a couple times tonight, where he just got the puck and he went and he made moves with it. He hung onto the puck and he was making plays. He looked like an NHL hockey player.
Sure did.
And Alex Chason, he's a favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And to see him score a goal like that, he will remember that goal because it was a beauty. Leon Dreissitel kicked it off with just a fantastic play in the corner where he's kind of pinned there with another player and he works the puck to his stick, and it's seemingly a no-look pass on his backhand to Adam Larsson right in the slot, right on the money. And then Adam Larsson, cool hand Larsson, slides a fantastic, smart, deft little pass over to Cahoon, over to Chason, who slammed it in the net on a one-timer. It was a great goal and a significant goal. That was is that the first goal of the game?
Yes, it was.
It was. So this is a big goal, at a key time in the game. So good work, Alex Chason. Bruce, my number is .630. It's the Oilers' winning percentage this year.
Okay.
And that's significant because it's higher than, they had that great season in 2016-17 that turned out to be a bit of a one-off. That year they were 628. Mm-hmm. Last year in their comeback season, when they were starting to build towards what they have now, they were 585. So this 630 winning percentage, it represents just a building on success, a franchise which is announcing itself, I think, as a Stanley Cup contender. And I don't know if what they're gonna do in the playoffs this year. I hope they get out of the Canadian. I think that they can. I'm more confident of that now, seeing these new line combinations. But I just think, again, we need to remind ourselves these are the good old days. And I had just a little feeling of sadness, actually, when you said how many games Dreissitel has played already in his career. Because as we're eating through this great time when we get to see Leon Dreissitel in his prime with Connor McDavid. And these days are fleeting. We know that from having lived through the 1980s, how fleeting these things are and can go away suddenly. So 630, though, that is a damn good hockey team. The Edmonton Oilers are a damn good hockey team, and they're coming together right now. The coach has made, I think, some of the right moves here. We'll see if Kulikov works out. I think McLeod's going to work out. I thought Kulikov played a solid game. There's a few passes that I thought were kind of iffy, but we'll see. I'm glad they have that extra depth. He's clearly an NHL defenseman, and it's always good to have lots of those. So because you never know who's going to get hurt. And there was one play where he won a puck in the corner and he just had a bit of physical contact and he just kind of slammed the guy into the boards. It's always nice to see that defenseman who could just slam the opposing forward into the boards, win a battle, because you need to break the cycle against good teams. And I think that's one thing we can count on him doing.
Yeah, a couple of, as you say, passes went awry, and at least one of them I kind of wrote off to a miscommunication between him and his partner, where they're just learning each other. I mean, sure, they're both NHL veterans, but they're not going to know each other's every move in their first game together. And I think I'm not sure if it was Kulikov or Larsson zigged where he should have zagged, or one of them zigged where the other guy thought he was going to zag or whatever, and it went from a situation where the Oilers had the puck to a slightly dangerous Winnipeg possession, and they proceeded to shut that down. So it didn't amount to much in the end, and just one or two semi-mystifying passes. But like I say, I think that some of that will be ironed out when they get used to each other. But I saw a lot more good than bad out of Mr. Kulikov tonight, and including 4 hits in this game. He had a solid, not quite mistake-free, but a very sort of positive Oilers debut. He's going to help.
I also like Tippett going with Caleb Jones over Chris Russell. I didn't think that was going to happen, and I said that on the last podcast. I just thought,
Yep.
Dave Tippett loves him some veteran hockey defensemen. He loves those veterans, and I just thought for sure that Jones would be coming out, but not to be. And I was glad with the decision before the game, and I wrote that because I want to. First of all, we know what we have. The Oilers know what they have in Chris Russell. They still have got to figure out what they're going to do with Caleb Jones before the playoffs and before the expansion draft. So they've got to play him. So it's a good idea to play him. I also just like the inclination to go with an offensive player over a defensive player when, all things being, when you're weighing things out. That's what I hope to see from the coach, is to get those offensive players to play better defense. And that's because I think that's how you're going to win in the playoffs. You're going to need the players who can break the game open and set up McDavid for a breakaway or move the puck. Because I don't think this Oilers team is going to win on defense in the playoffs. They're going to win on the attack. So, good move there. And I liked Jones and Bear, although they had that one horrible shift at the end at the end of the game where I think Mark Scheifele had 3 grade A chances, or was he not? Yeah, and they were running around a little bit there, but that was the game was over, and that was the whole line out there. So.
Yeah, they got smoked on shot metrics, but I liked their game actually. Jones and Bear and Jones. Jones, I thought he was skating really well. I thought he was competing hard. Like he was hitting, he was getting in the lanes, he was winning pucks and moving them out. Didn't have a lot going in the offensive zone, but I thought he was he played a kind of a take charge style out there, and it was good to see. And a lot of it's just between the two of them, movement of the puck among themselves, because they're both quite capable of making the pass or skating it out. And if they use each other and get a puck safely to the open guy, then the open guy is going to be able to do some damage. And I saw some of that tonight where they combine together as a pairing.
In the next, we have the 10 games coming up. I'm really hoping to see, the one big change I'd like to see is Evan Bouchard get him some games, maybe even starting next game. Why not give Tyson Barrie a game off to rest? Why not give Ethan Bear a game off and see what Bouchard and Jones can do on the bottom pairing? I'm hoping to see that. It doesn't have to be next game, but I hope we see it soon.
Yeah, I think there's a kind of a free space for experimentation coming up. Next week they play 4 games in a row against the Canucks, and the Canucks are. I'm not saying they're free space on the bingo card, but they're not playing against a team they might meet in the playoffs, and they should have enough latitude in the standings and so on that they can experiment here and there, and bringing on a guy like Bouchard in those games would be good. Now, there are some limitations. They're only allowed to make 4 recalls during since after the trade deadline. And they've already used 2 of them. The first one was on Joachim Nygaard, as I understand it. The first game after the trade deadline, they called him up. I couldn't quite figure that one out. The second one was on Ryan McLeod. They first recalled him to the taxi squad, but as soon as they activated him to play in tonight's game, he was the second one. They've also activated James Neal, but specifically to replace Jujhar Khaira, who was injured. And as long as Neal comes out when Khaira comes back, that's considered an emergency recall and doesn't count against the 4. So they have 2 left. And where they were really starting to run into problems was running into the salary cap ceiling. But with today's announcement that they've placed Zach Kassian on long-term injured reserve for basically the rest of the regular season, that should give them lots of latitude that they can use all 4, and I think they will. I think they're going to bring on a couple of players and give them some games. And the only issue is they got more players that they could activate than places to put them, or than moves that they can make. So if they use one on Evan Bouchard, then they've only got 1 left, and they've got guys like Tyler Ennis, Kyle Turris. That in perfect world, all these guys would get a game or 2 before the playoffs. Well, they're going to pick and choose among them as to who gets to play.
Alrighty. Well, Wednesday against the Winnipeg Jets again.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the game grades tonight. Got to get right in the.
I do.
Alrighty.
I do. Oh yeah. Oh, here's one more. This is my bonus number, 12. Edmonton scored 12 consecutive goals against the Winnipeg Jets. They scored the last four in the 4-2 win here in March. They shut them out 3-0 in Winnipeg last time, and then they took a 5-0 lead in tonight's game. So Winnipeg's probably got Edmonton living rent-free in their heads right about now.
Yeah, and Toronto. They're not in a happy mood in Winnipeg, so.
Probably not.
Alrighty, Bruce. Well, thanks for talking tonight.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.